Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Should I Play or Should I Go for Digital.Flash.Fire. This is Dan. As you may recognize, this is a scene from Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward. You are looking at Corlin on the Adamantoid server. This is my main and only character. The way the character system works, you don't really need alts. So we're going to talk about first the graphics, sound, special effects, all that kind of thing that you will see in this game. We'll look at the combat system, the quest system, fates, dungeons, some other neat things this game has. We will look at the endgame, we will look at the story, we'll look at some other things they've included, whether it's flying, whether it's the glamour system, whether it's crafting, just a lot of different things. Now that we've said all that, well, let's take a deeper look. Alright folks, here you see Dravania. We've got a nice foggy day. You'll get to see some other zones a little bit better. This just gives you an idea the kind of graphics you're going to be looking at in this game. You've got the mountains in the background, you've got this mist over it, you've got all of this terrain. It is just an amazingly beautiful game. The special effects are incredible. You're going to see some combat in a little bit. The character models are amazing. The interface is a little crowded. You'll notice skill creep has already become a little bit of a factor with my skill bars. You know, I've got 3 skill bars that are already just about full and 2 that are filled with kind of unnecessary stuff. You don't really need all of this here or all of this here. That being said, you don't really... It's not as confusing as a game like Lotro or Warcraft, where even after Warcraft did some skill crunching, it can be a bit of a mess. Now, the graphics, you can see people flying in the background. You know, the weather effects, these clouds do move. They don't move terribly quickly, but they move. Very little in this game is done as a painting. Everything is textured, everything is beautiful. The soundtrack is phenomenal. I would pay money for the soundtrack for this. I probably will. You'll see, just in the minutes we've been talking, the fog has already blown mostly over to where we just have high clouds. That's one of the effects you get, and you see how much clearer things are, how far away things draw in. Let's take a little look at the combat system. First, I'm playing on my Dark Knight here, one of the new classes with Heavensward. You can see things are quite smart. I will be in my right stance. You see I'm hitting this guy, and each attack has its own animation. Each attack has its own utility, and you see things pop up when they happen. This guy's getting a lot of special skills, and let's set this guy up for his inevitable demise. So not terribly difficult. Now you'll notice a quest reminder popped up in the middle of the screen. I am working on a couple of quests just to get rid of some older gear. The game has a very, very focused main story, rather like Star Wars The Old Republic. Only it is just one story. It's not 8 like the Old Republic had. It does make things a little more focused. It makes the voice acting a little more focused. The one downside I'll give the voice acting is every now and again there is a character whose voice is completely unsuited to the role that he has in the story. Harshapant is a great example of this. It's a very serious character whose voice actor just does not have a very serious voice. I know that voice actors kind of get typecast sometimes, and this guy, well, they typecast the wrong guy. Now, the one thing I will say is your rotations are very quick. You've either got a single target rotation with a couple of procs, you've got an AoE rotation / spam, depending on how you're doing things. Sometimes there's a little bit of stancing, especially for tanks in very tightly tuned fights. But overall, it's not a horribly complicated game with a lot of choices. That being said, if you aren't smart, you can easily get yourself in a lot of trouble. Now you notice there's a lot of yellow lines appearing on the ground. This game telegraphs all of the AoE attacks that you're likely to run into. What that means is you've got an opportunity to get out of them. There are a couple of bosses where basically the boss's whole mechanic is to not have those telegraphs. That can be a bit of a challenge. In addition to quests, we're going to take a look at the map. You have these things called fates. You'll see people are running that. We're going to hop on a mount. We're going to go over and see what's going on. Fates are an open world quest where everyone can participate. I'm going to try to make it in time to see this one. I doubt we're going to make it. They are excellent experience. They're a good way of grinding seals, which you can use for equipment or other rewards. They are very simple, very straightforward. You see up ahead, everyone's hitting on something. I'm going to assume that's our fate. Yep, Revenge of the Vengeful. Some of the names are interesting. There are some that have nothing to do with the game and are more about telling a good joke. Now you'll notice that I can't see anything. It is taking a minute to draw in, and that is one of the more annoying things when you have these open world events. By the time everything draws in, I haven't really contributed a whole lot. Now I did get some rewards. We'll talk a little bit more about that. This game does have the same traditional quests as other games. It does have the same quests, storyline, dungeons. The dungeons in this game are beautiful. I'm not going to run you guys through a whole one. There are plenty that you can find online, whether it's Mr. Happy or MTQ Capture. There's some great channels that will help you find that. But as far as graphics and the basic combat system, that's really what we're looking at so far. All right, now that we're back in the guild house, let's talk a little bit about Endgame. So the Endgame in Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward is very similar to that in the original Final Fantasy XIV. If you're familiar with it, that means you're going to be doing a lot of dungeons, you're going to be grinding a lot of gear. You're also going to be doing raid content. Now there is a ladder system where you do some dungeons so you can get into raid gear, so that you can get into raids so you can get into even better gear, and then you have another tier of raids show up. However, each time a new tier of raids shows up, they also bring in more dungeons so you can get gear that would allow you to not do the first tier of raids if you didn't want to. This is a really neat system. It does allow everyone to slowly work down parallel tracks to get gear that, while it may not match the top tier raid gear, is at least interesting and fun to have. I really like this system. It discourages the really intense, hardcore raiding community that I think is so toxic in other games, while at the same time giving people that enjoy really pushing the limits of their character something to go for. Look, I didn't even finish the last set of Bahamut raids. I probably could have. I just lost interest in the game a little bit at the end and couldn't bang my head against that wall any further. It was fun, but it wasn't so much fun that I wanted to smash my head against the brick wall. We'll see how it goes. So far, they just have the one tier of Alexander raids along with the Savage mode, which is going to be really interesting. It sounds like most people will be able to work their way through Alexander. Probably not most people working through Savage. They did have two raid sizes. 8-man raids were more intense. 24-man raids were much more casual. We'll see what they're doing for 24-man here. In the original, it was Crystal Tower, which was a throwback, and we'll get into the throwbacks a little later. One of the things I want to talk about, though, is the kind of perks that you get, and that's why we're in the house here. So let's take a look. So in the guild house, you'll see we've got a mender, we've got a material supplier, we've got a lot of chairs. We actually have more chairs than we have guild members right now. We've got a lot of furniture. There's an intense crafting system. There's an intense glamour system. You'll notice that I've got my Dark Knight here. I can switch classes on this character, just bouncing in between them. This is my level 50 Dragoon. Some of these I can't equip right now because I've messed up my gear and I need to figure out what's going on. My level 50 Warrior, which was my main back in the last expansion. My Machinist, or Mechanist, or whatever the heck it is. The Fun and Gun class. Astrologian, the other new one. And again, I've messed up the gear. Good job. Right now I'm maining Dark Knight until I get 60. You can also change the way your equipment looks. And if you ever want to see something really neat, go to the main hub and look at people. There are so many ways to change your character's appearance. There are so many ways to change what you're doing. We're going to teleport now, and I'm going to show you guys the gold saucer. You can see one option for other things to do when you hit Endgame. Okay, welcome to the gold saucer. We're going to talk about two things here. One is the incredible list of things that you can do at Endgame that basically just give you alternatives to beating your head against the grinding wall. This is... The gold saucer, obviously, is taken from Final Fantasy VII. The casino motif, there are games of chance scattered all throughout here. There's a bar, there's cactuars, there's, you can see down below, games of chance. We've got Moogles, there's decorations, there's prizes to win all throughout the place. Godbert Manderville, which, oh, this game has some great side quests, and he features in the best of them. But this game just has so many different options of things to do at Endgame that it really takes a long gap for you to need to take a really long break from this game. I've taken a couple of shorter breaks, but I've never taken what I would consider to be a really long break, like I have with Warcraft, like I have with Eve, like I have with other games. Part of it is because this game is so beautiful. Even in such a garish zone as this, it is stunning to look at. The character models are neat, even the sillier ones like the Lalafell. At this point in the expansion, the gold saucer is not that big. I expect we're going to see more out of the gold saucer as the expansion stales a little bit, but we will see. And there's a Lalafell. They can be a little silly. All right. Next up, we're going to talk about some things that are purely new to the expansion. Let's talk about something that Square Enix got very, very right when they were doing Heavensward, and that is flying. Remember when Burning Crusade came out and flying happened in World of Warcraft, and everyone thought, oh, this is amazing, oh, this is incredible, and it wasn't. It was fraught with problems. It really messed with PvP in that game. It caused so many problems in it, and really didn't add a whole lot of value to the game. Well, Final Fantasy does things very differently, as they always have. As you can see, I can zip around the zone very quickly. That's where I started. And the zones are definitely built with flying involved. This is a very magical zone, and you can see I can zip underneath these islands. I can fly to the edges of the zone, at which point the invisible barrier becomes very visible and pushes me back. There are nooks and crannies. Like, look at this little area here. There's no way you could get to this place by running to it. You would fall to your death, or more likely hit an invisible barrier. But now I can zip down and see what's in here. And there are places with a lot of little Easter eggs. Clearly we're not going to find one in this video. That would just be too lucky. But the game has all of these amazing details that are added through flying. You've got Shooting stars. Hadn't seen that before. But just this beautiful scenery, and you really get to explore it, and that is something that is just fantastic about this game. And the absence of open world PvP means it's not contentious. This isn't... You aren't dealing with the sort of toxic contributions to the game that Flying had in other games. Now, it's not a perfect system. The unlocking system is a bit grindy, although it does add to the sense of accomplishment when you finally do finish it. And obviously when the weather's bad, well, the video just isn't as pretty. And as you can see, the weather has definitely gotten worse in the 2 minutes since we've started. Alright folks, one of the last things I'm going to talk about before getting on to drawing some conclusions here is the changes made from Final Fantasy XIV to Heavensward. Now, the biggest change is the addition of 3 new classes. There's simply no glossing over having a new tank, a new DPS, especially a support DPS, and a new healing class without making some serious changes to the meta in the game. And they have. The Dark Knight immediately is one of the best tanks. The Astrologian is a very challenging healer, but I think it'll definitely find its niche, and, well, the Machinist is a work in progress. The flying system is fantastic. The new zones, everything you've seen so far has been a new zone. This one, which is infested with Moogles, who love to shatter the fourth wall, is gorgeous, as you can see. I just love the Zenith building there. So there is a lot of new stuff. The new dungeons are amazing. I've run about half of the new dungeons. I've got about half of them still to go. I've just hit level 58. The callbacks are fantastic. This game is well known for its callbacks. We're probably going to do a video in a little while talking about all of them, but there's a lot from Final Fantasy III, Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy I. All of the games so far have had some callback elements. The other thing is that this game hasn't lost the ability to be silly at times, and this turns some people off. It is not always a very straightforward, somber game, but to me, the game is extremely serious. It can be very oppressive at times. Look, there are people dying. The world seems spiraling out of control. If you don't have lighter elements, like a flying fat chocobo chasing a cake, you're not going to have a lot of fun. If you don't have Moogles treating the fourth wall with complete disrespect, well, and it's not going to be that much fun. So let's get on to the actual conclusions. The graphics, the visual and audio of this game, you have got to give it a 10. This game raises the bar for the audio and visual aspect of an MMO to a new high, the same way that Ion did, or the same way that Eve still does to this day. The music is amazing, even the Fat Chocobo theme. The sound effects are great. They are definitely the weak link in this. That's really what keeps me from giving this thing a 10 for the audio visual. But the graphical effects are stunning. You know, the dragon's home over there, I'm not going to spoil who it is, but you'll figure it out eventually. The magic seeping through the earth, just gorgeous, gorgeous. For gameplay, this gets a solid score. You know, for graphics, we're going to give it a 9. For gameplay, it's a solid game. It is not a unique combat system. It isn't particularly innovative. However, it is very, very solid. The biggest change this thing has over other games, well, there's two of them. First off, there is the slow down in the global cooldown. Rather than a 1 second or 1.5 second, it's a full 2.5 seconds. You have a lot of time to think tactically, and with simple rotations, you always have time to evaluate and decide what your priority is, what skills you really want to get off. The other big one is by telegraphing almost every AoE in the game, movement is a huge priority. The fights, people look coordinated even when it is a complete clusterfuck. The combat system, I'm going to give it an 8. Probably over time that'll drop down to a 7. It's a wobbly 8. As for other systems, you've got fates, you've got levs, you've got roulettes, you've got your hunt logs, you've got your challenge logs. You have crafting. Crafting alone, you could do an hour-long video and just scratch the surface. The real depth in this game comes from the choices you can make. And for other systems, I'm going to give this a 10. If you can't find something to do on a night when you want to play the game but you don't want to do the hardcore stuff, that is definitely on you. This game does not have the best story out there. Star Wars The Old Republic still has the most amazing story you're going to run into. But this is still a phenomenal story. It is no shame to get beaten by Star Wars The Old Republic. That's, look, if you got beat by Muhammad Ali, it's not good. You just got hit by someone really, really powerful. But there's no shame in your game getting beat by that guy. The story is phenomenal. The voice acting is very high quality. The script is well written, even though it has to be translated. It is a beautifully done, beautifully executed game. This, with a Realm Reborn, Final Fantasy shook off all of the problems with the 1.0 launch. With Heavensward, they chart a new course into the sort of game that is going to be around for a long, long time. So to answer the question, should I play or should I go? Play this game. All right, folks, that's just about it. For Digital.Flash.Fire, this is Dan. Have a great day.